magic.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The Mini Vinny Show. Let's talk paranormal. Hands up, hearts open. The night gets formal.
My head's buffering really bad.
Let's talk paranormal. Mini Vinny still with us in spirit. All around
Don't
us.
forget, let's talk paranormal.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's another Friday night at Let's Talk Paranormal. Woo. Are you frozen? Nope. Nicole, did we unfreeze you? Uh-oh. She is doing the spinning wheel of death. Well, anyway, while she's fixing, I want to bring up our wonderful guest, Dr. Bill. Are you ready?
How you doing?
Doing good. She's spinning. Uh-oh, here she comes. Hang on. Wait a second.
Technology. See?
There we
There we
go.
go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
You're back from the spinning wheel of death. How was the venture?
It's buffering really bad on my side.
Uh-oh.
Is it
So,
only me?
nope. I believe so. I'm good. Are you still good?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
All right. I'm going to move to a different spot because maybe this is why I don't really know why.
All righty. So, Dr. Bill,
Yes.
is it okay if I call you Dr. Bill, or do you want me to call you Bill?
You could just call me Bill. It's fine.
All right, that sounds perfect, Bill. So, first off, the number one question of all, of course, what got you in to wanting to do paranormal?
Well, I started when I was young. I was just one of these people that was always drawn to anything like horror, paranormal when I was a little kid. Nothing really scared me. I was more intrigued by it. You know, I always joke. I said where I lived in New Jersey at the time, you know, you always had like that one house on your block that was called like the haunted house everybody was scared of, you know, back then. And
Yeah.
all the kids would run by it. You know, I wanted to go inside, you know, I wanted to know what was going on inside there, who was in there, what was going on. I just was
Nice.
always drawn to it. And it made me like go on my own and try to learn, because back then you couldn't really find a lot of people into this. It wasn't talked about a lot, you know, back in the early 80s, you know, late 70s, early 80s. So, you know, I kind of learned on my own with books and reading up on the little bit that you had out there, not like today where you could just hop on and find anything. But it kind of just drew me in. You know, I just was always intrigued by it. And I had my own experiences that I was trying to figure out, was it, you know, something that was real, or was I crazy, or what was going on? Because
Exactly.
it wasn't talked about back then, you know, and I grew up in a Catholic household, so you couldn't really talk about it too much.
Okay. So, what moved you forward into demonology?
Well, my yeah, it's one of those weird things. It was, and again, this is where I say it was kind of a calling for me, because I went on it was 1989, and I was on my first ever case. I had a friend of a friend who needed a team member to go in because one of their members was sick, and they were going into a residential home. I was all excited to go check it out, and it turned out to be a rare demonic case. Now,
Ooh.
again, in 30, I've been doing this 36 years. I've been part of well over 1,000 residential cases, and I've been part of 7 demonic cases. So it is very, very rare, but it happened to be the first case I was ever on. And most people would have run for their lives from that, probably, because the guy next to me got full on attacked in the house. And it drew me in. It made me have like so many more questions about what that was, why it was there. It didn't. I mean, I can't say I wasn't scared, because anybody who says they were not scared on something that was a demonic case is completely lying, or they've never been on an actual demonic case. So yeah, you can't say you weren't scared. I was terrified, but it drew me in. I wanted to find out what it was and why, and you know, like, why was he attacked? Why wasn't I attacked? I didn't know things about protection back then or anything like that. So, you know, it was kind of just kind of pulled me in. I always joke. I say every one of the 7 cases I was on, I was pulled in, by another team for help, and every one of those 7 teams quit after those cases. They never did this again. They were so frightened by what
Wow.
they saw, not realizing they would ever see something like that, and they never did it
Wow.
again. Yeah.
Was that
So
around here?
you're
What? It was all in New Jersey. Most of them were in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania when I lived up there.
Oh,
and you're saying that you saw stuff. You saw more things, or what did you see?
Well, I've seen a bunch of things. Like I said on the first case, the guy to the right of me when we walked in the room, he threw his. I always joke with back then. This was 1989. He had a big like shoulder mounted camera, and we weren't even there, not even 10 minutes, and he screamed and threw his camera lens first to the ground, and we flipped the lights on. He pulled his shirt over his head. He had 3 scratch marks that were from his neck all the way to his spine. They were like razor blades. Now, I always joke too. I say
Damn.
I say to people, if that was like nowadays, I didn't know them well and everything, I would never believed it. I would have said it was rigged, it was set up, but this was in 1989. It wasn't talked about. The guy was frightened out of his mind. It was never anything that went public. It wasn't like you know what I mean? It happened. It was there. I saw it. I've seen somebody levitate off the ground. I was knocked clear across a room. There's a lot of things that can happen on those cases that you would only think you're going to see in a movie, and luckily they're rare. Luckily, I don't have to encounter them too often.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a big wow.
And it doesn't mean that if there's a case that's evil or demonic that something crazy is going to happen, but the thing is it can. And that's the point. When you go into those cases, you don't know what to expect. You're kind of just there. It's like a ticking time bomb in a way. You're just there wondering what's going to happen.
But isn't
When I
it
got
nuts when you leave? Like it's really hard to explain to other people.
Oh yeah. If look, I lecture all over the place. I'm at conventions and schools, libraries. I don't expect people to even believe my stories, to be honest with you. You have to experience it to understand it. You really do. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's things that I never thought I would have encountered myself. But it's something I do to help people. Um, I don't I don't enjoy getting called into those cases. I really don't. But I do it to help people. That's why I started in this.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
So do they still freak you out? Like, do you still get scared when it comes to the demonic cases?
Only those cases. Honestly, going and just investigating a home or even a public place or something, I get touched. I get even shoved a little bit or things, and it doesn't affect me in the slightest bit. But anything where I'm going in that could be or is demonic, yeah, because you, like I said, you're just sitting there kind of waiting, like what's going to happen. Like when I got knocked across the room, I was on the floor, and I wasn't on the floor like, oh my God, what happened? I was on the floor like, oh my God, what's next? That's kind of what goes through your head, in something like that, because you don't know what's going to happen.
So how do you know that it's going to be a demonic case?
Well, usually when I'm called, it's very rare you're going to walk into a case and happen to get that. But usually it's from a team that goes in and they experience something that they don't understand or they can't figure out or if they've never experienced before. So a real investigator is going to call for help, because you should never, ever try to, tackle something that you don't know how to handle or you don't know what it is. Always go above you to somebody that maybe has experienced something like that and look for help. It's not a competition. We got to be able to help each other. So we'll get called in. And I used to get called in by other teams and sometimes back in New Jersey with the church, actually. And we would go in to assess a case. And there's a lot of different things that you can do to kind of assess, like with a ghost, a spirit, anything like that in a house. You're going in and they can do little things. I don't use a lot of equipment in a house because it's not very reliable. I have 33 years in the technology field. I know what sets equipment off and what doesn't. So there's very few things I use inside a home. But when you go in to assess a case that could be demonic, unfortunately, the only way that the demonic really reacts is by religious provocation. So, as we always tell everybody, you don't provoke ever. Don't go into a house and don't provoke things. But with the demonic, you kind of have to provoke them because that's what makes them come out, because they'll hide and act like a ghost. So there's a lot of different tests you can do and things that we do, and a lot of times we'll have a priest with us, to help assess with what I might know. They know a little more than me, so a lot of different things. We'll go in and just check and see what the difference is, and try to determine what it can be. Because even like I say, when we do residential cases, 70 to 80% of our cases at least are not anything paranormal. They're psychological, their mental illness, their addiction, fear, grief, trauma, distress. There's so many different things that can cause what seems to be paranormal. You watch 20 hours of Ghost Adventures, every little noise in your house is going to now become paranormal.
Right.
Got you.
For sure.
Yeah.
So is there any signs like the 3 scratches and that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where they mock the Holy Trinity. So there's 3 knocks, 3 scratches, things like that. But that's not mostly what we're looking for. We're looking for reactions on people. We're looking for reactions in the room when you do like a blessing, a binding in the room, or a blessing in the room. You're using holy water. You're using certain things that are testing things.
Gotcha.
And there's some things I don't talk about because we don't want people to know how we do it, because it can alter what they would do, because you got to test people, because some people can fully believe they're possessed or they have a demon in the house. I would say 90% of our calls is I have a demon, because they think it's something bad. But in my opinion, and again, a lot of this is my opinion, people will definitely disagree with me on things, but demons don't just hang around places. They don't hang around in a house. They don't hang around in a battlefield. They don't hang around in places like that. There could be evil people. If you know somebody in life that is, just not a nice person, they're probably going to be not a nice person in death. You know what I mean? So, but demons are different. Demons have to be summoned in some way or another, whether it was on accident or purpose. So that's one of the things we do too, is we try to dig deep into the people who are being affected to find out if there was anything done. Because a lot of times they don't want to tell you. Oh, they were using a Ouija board. Oh, they did a seance. Oh, they were practicing black magic. You have to find those things, because those are normally the things that are pulled in. And it may not be you. It could be one of your kids playing around. It could have been somebody in the house. Could have been somebody before you, or you know what I mean? Like something like that could have brought it in. So that's one of the things we look for also. Doesn't mean if you play with a Ouija board, you're going to have a demon, but these are the things that can bring them in.
Got you. That is true.
Yeah.
So what are some of your, I guess you could say accolades, if I said it correctly, that you've been seen on, and maybe people might know,
Oh, some of the shows and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
I was just most recently, I was just on an episode of The Haunted Files on Paraflix. I believe it's the #1 watch show on Paraflix, and I know we were #1 that episode, and that was with Eric and Mike, and we were down in Key West with Robert the Doll and David Sloan, who's a good friend. Mike, Eric, and David Sloan are all great friends of mine for many, many years. I love Robert the Doll. I have a huge connection with Robert. I've been around him for 15 plus years. And I was honored to be brought down to that episode. I was also on, it was called The Devil's Academy. It was one of the shock docs on Travel Channel and Discovery Plus. That was if you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. It's a really cool story. It's about a mass possession of a high school in Miami in 1979. And it's a really interesting story, because there's a lot of back and forth on it. Like, was it really a mass possession, or was it the kids acting out because it was like a military school where they were being abused mentally and physically, and the kids all acted out one day, and some people believe it was just them acting out, but the accounts of what happened are a little crazy. Like one kid jumped through the second floor window and landed face first in the parking lot outside. And when the security guard ran over to him, he got up. He didn't have a scratch on him, and he threw the security guard clear across the parking lot. So that's not really acting out, in my opinion. So I don't know what to take on it. They brought me on from my knowledge of demonology and everything to see what I thought. And it's an interesting show. I was on an episode of Ghost Asylum years ago up at St. Augustine. They called me in because they were doing a show at the Castillo de San Marcos Fort, and they had seen something online that I had captured there. So they brought me up to talk about it and everything. I love St. Augustine. I mean, it's just a great place to go.
Nice.
So what did you capture there?
So, and this one's funny because it's very rare that I'm ever going to go and say, look, this is a ghost, because we don't know 100% of anything. I can tell you, I'll debunk everything first. And if I can't make heads or tails out of it, then I'm going to assume it could be, paranormal. So I was there this was back in like 2010 maybe, or somewhere back there. It was way back. And I was on a private ghost tour with just a couple people on the fort at night. And back then, nobody was allowed there at night. And he had special permission to be on there. And we were down in the one corner. And, like you do on a ghost tour, you take pictures. I was taking pictures all over the place. And you don't really notice stuff until you get home. And it was probably months later. It was on the corner of the fort in the back. There's a wall by the water. And you see a person sitting there on the edge of the wall leaning against the tree. Has no head, or at least you can't see a head. Now, it threw me off at first because it looked like he had jeans and sneakers. It didn't look like old time stuff or whatever. But the thing was, when I took that picture, I did not notice that. But where we were, I took pictures of that corner and then immediately walked down on that wall, right along the wall to that corner to take more photos. And there is no way, if there was a person there, an actual person, they would have either had to walk past us or jump in the water. There's no way we wouldn't have seen them because we were right there.
Huh.
I don't know. Yeah. See, when I start talking about things, then I go off. No, I don't know what it was, but it was just a really interesting capture, and we didn't have anything else that night from that area. So they brought me, and what's funny is the show brought me up to talk about that. And then they had the picture, and they never even put it on the show. They put me on talking about other things I experienced up there. Like I was leaning against the wall. That's the firing squad wall. Like you could see all the bullet holes in the wall and stuff. And while I was there, had my back against the wall, and I was talking to my friends, and something grabbed my shoulder. So, and nobody could be behind me. So, they had me on talking about those things. So it was fun. It was, I don't mind going up and talking about everything I've experienced.
Right on. You got another question, Nicole?
No, not really. The reason why I was asking about that is because I've been there before. And I took my daughter and her friend with us. And kind of like when you walk in, like where the drawbridge is, and then you go into that big courtyard, you can go to your right and there's a bunch of steps, or you could go walk all the way around it. So like the very right-handed corner, the second room to the very corner, I was standing there and I was getting ready to walk through, and I felt a sensation, and my daughter looked at me. She's like, "Mom," and I'm like, "What?" She goes, "There's a man standing there, like right next to you." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "How do you know that?" And it was funny because I was feeling it, but here my daughter is that I didn't even know had any kind of abilities, was like, there's a man in a uniform standing next to you. I'm like, holy shit. So I know that there's a lot of stuff that's happened in St. Augustine, and like we went to the jail and I felt absolutely nothing the whole night I was there, but other people get so much.
Let me tell you, I go up there all the time. I go up every year. I used to go up from like the day after Christmas to the day after New Year's for like the last 10 years.
Beautiful time.
Yeah, it's great. The night of the lights up there and everything, it's great.
Yeah.
Um, I have been to almost everything you could go to in St. Augustine. And people ask like, "Oh, what's haunted up there? What can you do?" I said, "Just go in the grocery
What's
store. I
not?
mean, everything." Yeah, but what's funny what you say about that. To me, the most experiences I had, the most active place was the jail. I did the nighttime
Really?
jail tour, and they're great people up there. They actually knew I was coming up there, and they let me come on the tour and go check it out. And I've been up there. I went up 2 times last year and once this year in the old jail. And I'll tell you something. I was so surprised by a lot of the activity that we had up there. One of the craziest things in that jail that I experienced was I was in. Did you do the nighttime tour, or did you do the
Yeah.
daytime? Okay, so the nighttime tour,
I
you
did
go
both. I
into
did both of them
did both.
actually.
Okay, so in Lulu's room, with the sheriff's room upstairs, um,
Uh huh.
there's an old, the cool thing about something like that is you have a lot of artifacts in there that were from the original people. So you have a lot of trigger objects,
Yeah.
and there's an old, like, it looks like a 1930s metal typewriter sitting on the dresser.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, remember that? So I'm
Yeah.
standing there, and we were doing some EVPs, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my ear, I hear click, and I was like, looking at the typewriter, like, no, no,
There's no
no,
way that just happened.
no, no, no. So I kept going, and all of a sudden, here, click, 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 and I look over, and I'm like, what? And I'll be honest. The first thing I did, they tell you don't touch anything. The first thing I did is I picked that thing up.
Touch it.
I took out my flashlight. I said, "This has got to be rigged," and it wasn't, because those typewriters. I mean, you have to put a tremendous amount of pressure on those buttons to make them click. You know what I mean? They're old, they're rusted. It's a lot. I mean, I pushed them myself, and it was hard to push them, and that amazed me. And I grabbed Giselle, the tour guide, and I go, "All right, what's up with the typewriter?" And she looked at me and she goes, "That's the first thing I asked when I heard it go off." So it's something that happens, common over there. So I was impressed with that, but it was in my opinion, it was a pretty active place. I like that. I like the lighthouse, the fort. I mean, really everything there. I've been around most of the places there, and it's just a great all around city. You know.
I've never got into the lighthouse, but the fort we did. I've been to the fort quite a few times. I've been to the jail a couple times, and then usually when I'm there, I like to go to the cemetery. So
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
we usually end up in there. So,
Yeah.
but it was fun to bring my daughter and her friend. Her friend was totally freaked out by everything, but me and my kid were having a good old time that weekend.
I'm gonna call out one of my friends here. So this was this was one of the greatest experiences up at that jail. So I have somebody on my team. I say she's my niece because she's my best friend's daughter, and she's on my team. And I was up there. It was 2 or 3 years ago. I forget. We were up there for right after Christmas, and my friends happened to come up also, and her daughter was going to the old jail, and the thing was they had given me tickets for another night, so I couldn't. It was sold out, so I couldn't get in when she was going, and then when she told me that her mother, my best friend, was going with her, and she wouldn't even watch a horror movie. She's freaked out
Oh,
by everything,
God.
and she just didn't want her to go alone. I guess she wanted to have somebody with her, so she decided to go. And I said, I gotta get in there because I got to see this for myself. So I actually called them and I said, listen, is there any way you can squeeze me in? And because they only take 12 people, and they go, okay, we'll make you the 13th person. Go ahead, just show up. So I surprised them, and the thing was, I have one of those DR60 recorders, and the DR60, a lot of people will say it's complete junk and it's all fake, and it's not true, because I've gotten some really clear things off of it. You just have to
Mhm.
understand how it works. Every sound isn't something coming out of it. Well, I take that back. It could be all the static you hear that comes out of it could be something, but if we can't make out what it is, it's not evidence to me. But it is entertaining at times. So when she was there and I knew she was going to get freaked out, she was happy that I was there. She felt more comfortable. But the three of us were just in the one room, and I took out the recorder. I said, "Oh, we got to do this." And I take out the the DR60, and I go to do an EVP, and I'm just like, anybody here that wants to talk to us. And as soon as I played it back, it did one of those loud, static screams,
Oh
and
wow!
I swear she almost jumped out of her shoes. She's like, "Oh my god, what was that?" I go, "I think it's a demon." I was having fun with her, but that was fun of it. But no, it is a great place, and like I said, everything up in St. Augustine, Key West are two of the greatest places, in Florida.
Definitely going to have to go because take. I guess you would put it as my paranormal virginhood. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm like sitting like kind of right in the middle where I am. I'm in Coral Springs down by Fort Lauderdale, so it's about 4.5 hours to St. Augustine, and it's about 4 hours to Key West. So I'm
Okay.
like sitting right in the middle. Key West. What's funny is Key West is actually way closer than St. Augustine, but because half of it is a one-lane road, it takes 4 hours.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So
I've been to Key West many times, but never for paranormal stuff.
There's a lot down there.
So I hear.
we're what all can you tell us about Robert the Doll? You said you had a bond with him for about 15 plus.
Yeah, I met him many years ago, and then I wound up getting in touch with David Sloan, and we became great friends. He taught me so much about Robert, the history of Robert. Robert has a very interesting story behind him because he's not like Annabelle, where they believe it's a demon and it was trying to kill everybody. Robert wasn't like that. Robert caused a little mischief, but Robert wasn't out there trying to harm people. But then at the museum, this whole legend came forth about you have to ask permission to take his photo, and basically you have to be respectful. That's
Yes.
what it comes down to. Even if you don't ask permission, I would say do it. Don't test fate, but you want to be respectful. And there's a sign there that states, "Please ask Robert permission to take his photo." So if you don't, it's kind of being disrespectful.
Yeah.
So when they have tens of thousands of letters down there, handwritten letters that go to Robert like yearly, that are begging for his forgiveness because they went down there, disrespected him, and then they left, and all kind of things happened to them, bad luck, all types of stuff. And when I lecture about him all over the place, almost every lecture, as soon as I bring up Robert, somebody's like, they got their hand up with their stories, and I've heard everything you can imagine. I even have, I did write a book. It came out last August, Living Life Haunted, which is my whole 36 years in the field. I did a full autobiography, and there's a whole chapter. David actually wrote the foreword, and there's an entire chapter on David and Robert and all the people I met affected by Robert. So some of the things I've heard, like I was at MegaCon one year and I was doing a lecture there and I was talking about Robert, and this guy was in the back, like way in, because those rooms are like 500 people, and he's in the back like, hey, So I said, "What's going on?" He said, "We were just there last week." He said, "I went down there with my friend." He said, "We went in. My friend thought it was a joke. He was disrespecting him. He was laughing at him. He was taking pictures." He goes, "We come out after and we get in the car and the car won't start." He said, "So I had somebody come over and they checked the car out and they said the starter was dead." So he said they left the car there overnight because it was late. They got back in the morning. They called AAA. The car still wouldn't start. They called AAA and they waited. And he said he started bothering his friend. Go in there and apologize to that doll, because you could go in during the day. It's a museum. And finally, he got him to go in and apologize. And when he came out, AAA showed up and they turned the car on. They said, "There's nothing wrong with your starter."
Mm.
So
Wow.
can it be coincidence? I don't know, but I've heard everything. And like the one story that got me that I didn't even know how to react to, I was at it was actually a Coconut no, it was at the Coral Springs Library, my town, many years ago. Guy came up, he waited to the end of the show. He came up afterwards. People come up, ask me questions, talk to me, take pictures, whatever. They all left, and he just waited until everybody was gone. And he came up, and I said, "Yeah, you want to talk about something?" And he goes, "Listen," he goes, "you need to tell everybody how dangerous and serious Robert is." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, we're not trying to scare people." I said, "As long as you're, nice to him. He's fine. And he said, no, you don't understand. I went down there with my wife. We were taking pictures. We were doing stuff. She thought it was a big joke. She made fun of him. She didn't ask permission. We left on the way home that night. We got into a car accident. She was killed. And I was like, I didn't even know how to react to that.
Wow.
Probably coincidence, but this is what I tell people. I go, there's no reason to test that. I've been doing this 36 years. And when I see Robert, even David, when David sees Robert, he walks in, hi, Robert, how are you doing? Nice to see you. It's just a matter of respect. It doesn't hurt you to be respectful. It's something
Exactly.
you don't want to test because it may not just be bad luck you get, But the story behind Robert was he was given to a boy named Robert Eugene Otto when he was a little kid. And there's a lot of there's still, I think, a lot of back and forth between it. Some people used to say it was given to him by one of the servants in the house, but it was gifted to him as a little boy, and he developed a very strange attraction and connection to this doll. He immediately gave him his name Robert and went by Gene or Eugene the rest of his life, which was his middle name.
Okay.
And the sailor suit that you see him in was actually Eugene's outfit. He gave it to him. Robert was actually a jester. He was originally made by the Steiff Company in Germany, the ones that created the first teddy bear. So he was a jester, and he gave him his outfit, and then gave him a little. He has a little lion as like a stuffed animal that's with him, and he started. It was little things like, they would go out and the family would go out, and Robert would be in one window, and then they'd come back and they'd see him in another window when they came home and nobody else was in the house. Anytime something happened in the house, they would yell at Eugene, and he would say Robert did it. It became the biggest, like, kind of like joke a little bit. And then one time, one of the servants was pushed into a closet, and the door was held shut. And when she finally got out, she yelled at Eugene, and he said, Robert did it. I didn't do it. And then Eugene, I think it was at 18, he left. He left the home, and he went and traveled the world, got married, and then he didn't come back until I think it was about 40. And when he came back into the house, he had the doll. I think it was in a chest up in the attic, because it was the family home. He went and got. It's called the Artist House. If you go to Key West, you can actually. It's a bed and breakfast. You can stay in the house where he lived. So you want to do the full experience. And there's a turret room. It's a round room up top where he spent most of his time up there. But they say when he came back, and he was he all of a sudden got the immediate attachment to this doll again. And they say that eventually he got Parkinson's, and he wound up spending, I think it was the last 10 years of his life, pretty much up in that turret room with Robert, going crazy. And
Wow.
yeah, he died up there. And then a lady named Myrtle Reuter came and bought the house, and she found the doll. And when she found the doll, instant attraction to the doll. That's why David calls it like the doll tender. It was the people who cared for the doll. So she became the doll tender, and she took over, and she had the doll for 10 years, from, I think it was it 10 years or 20 years, 74 to 94, something like that. And she had no problems with the doll until one day she was shoved in a closet and the door was held closed, or in a room and the door was held closed. And when she came out, she took the doll, went down to the Fort East Martello Museum, and said, here you go. I don't want this. It's haunted. And she left. And it sat in the back for a long time until David came down there, and he found the doll, and he uncovered the whole story. He's a historian, a researcher, and he dug up all the stories and all the research, and he keeps finding more and more things out even now. It's an amazing story. They believe there's many things attached to Robert. It's not just one. They know that there's a spirit of a little girl. There's a lot that's been confirmed by some known psychics that have come down there and talked to him. So there's a bunch that are attached there. And like anything, the more people that come down and acknowledge it and talk to them and do everything, their energy feeds off into there. And so sometimes other things come in.
Yeah.
It's definitely a sight to see. And like I said, I've had Robert's been good to me. I joke I have a little mini Robert over here that goes everywhere with me, except I will not take him on a plane. I will not put him in my suitcase and put him on a plane. I just can't. I can't find it in me to do it. He'll go in the
Why
car
tempt
with me.
it?
Yeah, he'll go in the car with me, but I'm not taking him on my plane. Sorry.
Yeah, there was
Wow.
there was a lady I think that was attending to Robert. I don't remember her name, but it was he was brought on one of Zach's shows. Yeah,
There you go.
that's awesome. One of Zach Baggins' shows. It was something about all of his items that were in the museum or something.
Yes.
And she actually brought and he was live. Robert was live for a little while.
There's a
show.
lot of things that they say they have seen Robert expressions change, heads move. On David's tour, they've had things where somebody had a cross on and the cross burnt them, and it
Wow.
had the burn mark of the cross. And there's a lot of different things. I don't take it as I've been down there many times. I don't take anything down there as being demonic. But in the fort down there too, if you go on David's tour, the cool thing about it is it's not just Robert. He takes you down into that fort, which has a lot of haunted history to it, and there's a whole wing that is closed off that it's only for the tour that has all haunted items in it. Something specific that was given to me by David and was brought into my house and caused a lot of problems in this house, and it's actually back down there now. When I went down to film in February, I brought it back down there, and it's now under glass. I don't want it. It's there, so it's on display there. I don't know if he talks about it too much, but we talk about it on the episode a little bit.
I'm definitely going to have to do a road trip.
Yeah. You want to go?
So, all right, what would be your? I remember you were telling me about the beginning of it, where the cameraman had some scratches and everything. Would that be your most scariest moment in the paranormal, or is there another one?
Well, all 7 of those cases, to be honest with you,
Right.
that one sticks out because it was my first ever case. So, like I said, when I walked out of there, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about demons. I walked out of there going, "Holy crap! This is what a ghost does. What in the hell am I doing?" Really. That's So it was the initial fright that I could say that was probably one of the most, one of the scariest. But being physically knocked across a room by nothing. It was like 2 hands that hit me in the chest and knocked me clear across the room. And that's extremely frightening because you sit there going, how do you defend yourself? I always use the example of, like, you go out and you're at a bar and somebody's drinking and they're drunk and they get in your face and they're being stupid. You could control the situation. You could move away. You could grab them. You could whatever, but there was nothing there.
Right.
I was just standing there, so that's bad. And then I had another case where nobody was fully possessed, but it was starting to get to the older lady that was there, and she was in a wheelchair, had like oxygen and stuff. And there was a point where, while we were there assessing with the priest and the other team, she nodded off, and I was watching her very specific. A lot of this stuff too is in my book. I explain the full stories. She was nodding off a bit, and she would come to. She was very old, and like I said, she was on oxygen. I was watching her to see if she had like signs of dementia or Alzheimer's or things. You got to watch them, and they're easy targets too for the demonic. So one time she nodded out, and she came back too, but it was very different. They were all talking, and I was just watching her. She came to, and she was very alert, and she was looking around the room, and nobody in that place knew my name or the priest's name. And the priest, I had him wear street clothes. I said, don't wear your, I said, let's just go in. I told the team, just tell them that we're part of your team and we're helping, investigate. And we gave them different names. And she looked up and she looked straight at me and she started laughing. And she said, "You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know who you are, Bill and Father Paul?" And everybody was just frozen. Now, I can tell you that is, I don't know if that's as frightening or even possibly more frightening than being knocked across the room,
I think it'd be
because
about mixed.
it is something that will never ever leave your mind. The look and the voice and the just, it was something to see, and those are some of the things that I'll probably haunt me forever. I'll never forget. You know.
Wow. I couldn't even imagine that. That would be terrifying.
The scary thing, where I tell people not to play around with the demonic side or get help if you're experiencing something you don't know. It's not about like, oh, you don't know enough, go get somebody. It's because a ghost, yeah, okay, they can't really harm you. They can scare you, they can knock something off the table, they can maybe even push you a little bit or whatever. But the demonic can actually go through you to your family. So it's a very dangerous thing. It's things that a lot of people really shouldn't play with, because it can affect your entire family. They can go through you. They can affect you. They can do a lot more than people think. So it's something that not you shouldn't play around with unless you kind of know what you're doing, or at least
Yeah.
you have to have somebody there that knows a little more.
Okay.
I call people in. I don't know everything.
So, where can people get your book? You keep talking about it.
Yeah, so my book, it's called Living Life Haunted.
Awesome.
It's on Amazon. It's not a small book. It's 264 pages. Or
Wow.
yeah, it's a big book. It took me 3 years going through this book, because I was like, what do you put in? What don't you put in? What's important? What's not? And I'll be honest with you, the book is not a journal of my cases. Some of my cases are in there, some funny ones, some real ones, some dangerous ones, but I wanted to give people a perspective of what it's like to be me, like what it is to go through what I've been through. A lot of stuff you don't hear about on TV, things we deal with after a case, things that come with us, things that we have to go through in our own lives, a lot of stuff like that. So it's there's a lot in it. You could get it on Amazon. You could go to my website, which is my name, billslevin.com.
Okay.
I have autographed copies on there, or any of the events I'm at. I always have my books with me. I have a bunch of events coming up. So yeah, and please, if you get it, I tell anybody, if they buy the book, leave a review. It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing for people to do. They don't want to leave reviews. I don't care if you didn't like it. Leave the review.
So, what events do you have coming up?
So I have, okay, right now I'm going to try to remember all these. I
Dun,
think
dun, dun, dun.
I always forget the dates and then they get mad. So the first one I have down here is June 26th. I've been brought in to a little place down here in Davie, Florida called Flamingo Gardens. It's
Okay.
a little mini zoo. And it has a very old haunted, it has a whole history to it, but there's some haunted, stories to it over the years, and it's on Indian ground and things like that. So they decided to start a ghost tour. So
Nice.
me and some of my team members were brought in. I'm in there as like the celebrity investigator with them, and a couple of my team members run the tour, and we take them around through the place, and we wind up with me in the house. It's called the Ray House, and we do some actual investigating in there. I bring my recorders. We have equipment. It's a lot of fun. So we have one coming up on Friday, the June 26th,
Okay.
and then the big show that I've been waiting for a year is the New Orleans Paracon. This is the one
yeah.
I've been waiting for. It's July 31st to August 2nd. This is going to be an amazing event. I mean, there's a lot of great guests. I have, and the cool thing about it is it's not just your normal Paracon and panels and vendors, and they have all that, but you have paranormal, you have horror, you have voodoo, you have vampire. You also have workshops. So I'm going to be actually teaching a class on Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. on how to properly conduct residential investigations.
Okay.
So that's and then I'm also going to be part of the after hours ghost hunts on Friday and Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's something you definitely don't want to miss. And then after that, I have UltraCon in West Palm Beach, Florida, at the
Nice.
fairgrounds. That's September 18th to the 20th. That's always a great event. They got a lot of great guests. It's a Comic-Con, so they have a lot of different stuff there. And It's a lot of fun. And then October 10th, I'm going to be out in Flagstaff, Arizona at Flagstaff CreepyCon. They have it's a 1-day convention, horror paranormal convention, but they have a ton of guests. I've never seen this many guests for a 1-day convention. It's going to be really interesting. I'm excited to go up there, and there's going to be a lot more, but those are the ones I have all the confirmations on right now.
Right now, that's awesome.
And if anybody wants to have me either on a podcast or at an event, please contact my manager Asia at methodical.com. You can find it on my website too. Everything that is on mine has all her info on it.
Yeah, she's a really nice lady.
Yeah, she's great.
So, trying to think of what. You were talking about that you don't really use equipment, but if you were to use equipment, what would be your number one?
Well, okay, let me get that straight. I do use equipment. If you can see down here how much equipment I have over 36 years, and being a mix of 33 years in the IT field, I have a ridiculous amount of equipment. And I like to test it all. Like when we go out on public investigations, we like to test it and research and see how it works and try to get it to duplicate the things we get. But in a residential case, really you shouldn't use a lot of equipment. Only because some of it is so flawed that there's so many environmental things and that can set it off. So normally I'll go in a residential, I'll go and use audio, video, and environmental stuff like EMF, but not EMF to do like yes or no, EMF to do baseline readings around the house to see if EMF is, something's coming out of the air conditioner too much or, where it's coming from. And then things that do like temperature changes, humidity, vibration, things like that, and our own natural senses. Audio to me is by far the best evidence you can have because, in my opinion, it's very hard to debunk an audio clip when you ask a question, stay silent, and it responds to you clearly. It has to be very clear for me to really consider it. It's hard for me to go against that. It has to be in a controlled environment too. You're in the house. There's no TVs on. There's no people outside. You got to watch. People don't understand that if you're in a house, even if you're doing a public investigation and there's a window open, that somebody down the block, saying something loud can come through that your ear might not hear quickly, but it's picked up on some of those recorders. So you got to look at a lot of different things, even like wind coming through, the window. There's a lot of different things you got to look for. Just always use a controlled environment and try to debunk everything first. That's how I look at it.
Nice. Is that what you do? Nicole?
Yeah. Do the same thing. Usually, like you said, when I go to a residential, I do kind of the same thing with the EMF. Try to get a baseline reading in most of the rooms so that if you have a massive jump, there's some sort of reading. There's a reason to why. But there's so many false positive kind of things that could happen.
Yes.
And a car going by, lights on the window, a phone or somebody getting an email. There's just so many things. That's why
go ahead.
Yeah, generally, I try to do like if I get a EVP, a spike, and a picture all at the same time, then I'll be more apt to say, hey, that's most likely paranormal, than to just be like, oh, the K2 meter went wild for a couple seconds, Yeah. And then you can see a pattern sometimes with a K2 meter. Like when people are getting, say somebody forgot to put their phone on like airplane mode or something like that, or their apartment upstairs is, getting emails and stuff. Like it has its own like kind of pattern to it. So I try to I really don't use a K2 all that much anymore.
Right. Yeah. There's so many different things. And it's one of the things I know I get a lot of people disagree with me on certain things. Like I will say, in my opinion, never, ever use phone apps. I'm telling you that as an investigator and as an IT professional. I've worked with people who build apps, not these apps, but I can tell you that those apps, most of them are programmed to produce responses. And the thing is, the app does not, people don't understand this. The app doesn't, you do not have to give permission to the app to access stuff. If you say no, or it doesn't ask you, it still can get to your stuff. Some of them actually use AI, like they'll use, if you have your stuff on, they'll use GPS to know where you are. They'll use active listening, like in Alexa, to understand what you're saying, and then they'll use AI to respond to you. Not all of them, but that's that's what a lot of them do. They're just not accurate. And the other reason is, with your phone, it doesn't matter even if you're on airplane mode. I tell people, if you're using it to record, I mean, you could use it to record audio and stuff, but it's not the best thing. I'll have other stuff with you, because even on an audio, and let's say you're in airplane mode, there are still apps running in the background, and they make little tiny vibrations or dings that you may not even notice that will contaminate your audio or your video, and I tell people, even with your recorders, use multiple if you can. I always have, a lot of times I have a wrist recorder that's from the Ghost Stop, and it just, you put it on and it'll record like 25 hours continuous. So you just put it on when you're in there, and then I'll also have another one that sits on my video camera. It's a Tascam that just runs continuous, and then I use the recorder. Because this is what I tell people, or if you have two people that have recorders, use them for the EVPs. Because if you, this is again my opinion, if it comes up on both recorders the same sound or the same anything, then it's most likely not paranormal, it's something environmental. Because the spirits, we believe, are using the energy harnessed from the device and from the area to respond to you. So if it comes out on both, it's probably something environmental that was in the air. Where if it only comes on one, then it's more likely to be paranormal, because if there was somebody in the room that maybe you didn't hear, or somebody, like I said, maybe they were outside, you didn't hear them, both recorders are going to capture that. So if you get it on one only, that's where I take it more real.
Okay.
I had, a couple of years ago, I met up with a team, because like years ago we had more teams than we do now. Like now it seems like everybody's kind of independent and they do what they want to do. But back, and I don't know if you ever went to like PIA or any of those kind of things.
Oh yeah, I used to go there.
Yeah, I did too. But back then you had to have a team even to go,
Yeah.
But that's when they started like coming out with these apps and stuff. And I always tell people, like, I would rather have a piece of string with some bells on it than to use the app. Like, and people would look at me like I was absolutely nuts. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't know if I can trust the app. And there's just too much, electronic stuff going through it. Right. And I guess I pissed a couple of teams off because I refused to, go with their app thing. And I mean, I have the apps on my phone right now just to see what they do. But like, I've never gotten anything great on the apps.
Well, the thing is this, I tell people, you could take them and you could test. I mean, I tested them, almost every one of them. I'll put it out there every once in a while and test it with things, put it with other equipment and see what comes up. But you have to remember, one of the things I tell people, the easiest way to test it is take Spirit Box or Spirit Talker. Okay. Mm-hmm. Put that thing on. It's supposed to mimic like an Ovilus, okay, which is a word bank or whatever. But take it out. Take out your Ovilus even. And I know a lot of people don't believe in them. I believe in it this much. I've had weird things occur with it that I can't explain. But the Ovilus will produce words sometimes just randomly. But the Spirit Talker, you put that down, leave the room and come back 20 minutes later, and it has a full-on conversation. And it's always like, get out, demonic, devil.
Scary. Yeah.
It's always crazy stuff. And, like these people on, I don't want to call them bad, people on TikTok going through cemeteries all day long with the Spirit Talker and things like that. And they're talking they're like, oh, thank you, Johnny. Oh yeah, look, this is Johnny. It knows what you're saying. I don't know. Yeah. it's too much. If it's that easy, I mean, we would all have crazy amounts of evidence if it was that easy.
Yeah.
True.
It's not like
And that would be demonic stuff every single place you go.
yeah, that's
But I do have one question for you, more or less your opinion.
yeah,
Last Saturday, I was on an investigation, and I was sitting in a chair that was supposed to be like the guy that owned the chair, used the chair throughout his career, was a judge. And so I asked permission to sit in the chair, but previous investigators had both put on either arm a flashlight, you know,
Yeah.
on either side, kind of like a yes or no kind of situation. And now I had the flashlight to the right of me. Every time I was asking a question, it seemed like the flashlight was going on and off to my questions, or when I would ask to turn it on or ask to turn it off. Now, I have
right.
heard other investigators say that somehow that the whole thing with the flashlights have been disproven. And I was just wondering what your opinion is of that, or has it been disproven?
Yeah. Okay. So people are not going to like me for this one either. But I speak out about it. The flashlight trick. Can something do it? Sure, it can. I mean, we know it can manipulate electronics and everything. But here's the thing: a ghost, if they want to manipulate a flashlight, they'll turn it on. The problem is this flashlight trick, as we call it, was brought. It was created on a TV show. Not going to say where. On a TV show, and the thing is, they take a mag light or a similar type of flashlight, and they unscrew it. They put it on, and they unscrew it until it just goes off. So you're just breaking the connection, right? And then they sit there, and then they ask questions, like you saw. They ask questions, and every once in a while, it'll light up, and they take that as a yes. The problem is if the temperature shifts 1 degree in that room, it's enough for the case to expand and contract. So every once in a while, the connection is going to touch. And it's been proven that I have a video somewhere that I use sometimes where the guy proved it. He took it and he took a hair dryer and he turned it on, turned it off, and you watch the light go on and off, turned it on, turned it off. Anything that was hot, cold, anytime it would make it go on and go off. And that's what I say. Could it be something? It's kind of like the static on the recorders. It could be something, but we don't know. So the point is to make it more real, just leave a flashlight there. If they want to turn the flashlight on, they'll turn it on. It's kind of like the cat balls.
Yeah.
The cat balls go off constantly because they move around so easy. So I know there's a lot of people out there that have them now, but I created on my 3D printer cat ball holders. And
Yes.
you put them in those holders. And believe me, they very rarely go off. If they go off in that holder, then I'm more tempted to believe it could be something, unless somebody banged really hard or something. But you can sit there with some of those holders and you could bang all around it and they don't go off. Even at Flamingo Gardens one night, we had one that just kept going off on the thing and we couldn't replicate it. We were banging, we were moving it. It wouldn't go off, but every once in a while it would just go off on its own. So I don't know. But that's my opinion on the flashlight. I mean, it could be, but it's for me, I look at it this way. If I can prove something scientifically, then I don't consider it evidence. Because to me, there's too many things to say what can cause that naturally. So could it be? It could be, but I can't validate it,
Right. Yeah, and that's why I was saying, like, sometimes, like, for me, I try to get 2 or 3 pieces of evidence all at one
Yeah.
particular time, and a lot of it gets thrown out, but you do get some really cool personal experiences anyway.
Absolutely. It's all research. That's what it is. I mean, learn. If you have that flashlight, I tell people, if you're using that flashlight, you want to use it. Okay. You don't have a lot of money because equipment's expensive. You want to use the flashlight, use the flashlight. But you know what? Get it, work with it. So, okay, it does that. So now turn it off, close it and turn it off and do the same things and see if it comes on. change it up a little bit, do things, put something else next to it, see if something else will go off around it. Do actual research. Don't just, that's the problem. A lot of people go out and they'll buy, okay, I bought a REM pod. Oh, the REM pod beeped. I got a ghost. Learn how the device works. Learn what can set the device off so that when you truly have something that could be, paranormal, because people just buy stuff and they don't know how it works. I have an advantage because I worked in electronics all my life. So I know a lot
A
about
lot of people
equipment.
have no clue how this stuff works.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. So we've hit our 8 o'clock. I just wanted to say thank you very, very much.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Is there any other information or things you want to plug promotion wise before we leave?
Just if you want to get in touch with me, my website is billslevin.com. If you are experiencing something and you want to, request an investigation from us, my team is the Paranormal Existence Research Society. I forgot to bring that up before. So my team is a massive amount of just great people. They're handpicked. I'm very, very picky who's on my team. We have people all throughout Florida, Georgia, Nebraska, UK, Italy, and Greece. And we can be reached at, my website is PERSFL, so PERSFL.com. You could go on there, fill out our form. We'll get in touch with you and we'll start the whole process up. And we never charge anything. We do this purely to help people. And then of course, if you want me for an event or anything like that, again, you go to my site and you'll see my manager, Asia at methodical.com. Yes. And I think that's everything.
All right. Well, if you guys have been wondering also, the QR code that's up here goes to the mini store, which we have merchandise. We've got shirts and hoodies and tank tops and hats and all that fun jazz. So you are able to scan that and go to the store. It is going. So, all right. Well, we definitely want you back on the show. And there's some other things. There's some other things that I will talk to you about a little bit later. But yes, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you again for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. It was great meeting you.
You too.